Welcome, welcome, welcome to Health Issues. I'm your host, Chris Sylvain. Believe me, I have not been more excited about a program. We have somebody that, believe me, everybody knows. We have Mr. Gerod Stevens, WBOK Program Director. Thank you, sir.
Anytime, anytime. I told you, I said I'll definitely be here for you.
Hey, and you are here literally when we look at the city of New Orleans right now, not just as an African-American male, but you have taken the lead as a role model, as a spokesperson, a leader for the community. And first of all, I just want to thank you for that.
Well, first thing, thank you for inviting me to be here. I think that there are a couple of things. First of all, sitting and having conversation with the folks that make the decisions, make the policies, and understanding it, talking to the people that listen to the radio station about what is going on around them is important, especially explaining it in layman's terms. Right. Because sometimes we can overtalk folks, and when you overtalk a person, it makes them disinterested and makes them not really understand and get the gist of what just happened. Because a lot of us since Katrina are still asking, what just happened? What just happened to my house? What just happened to my livelihood? What happened to my job? What happened to Utno? What happened to the Jefferson Teachers Federation? What happened to my school? What happened to my livelihood? What happened to the people that used to live next door to me? So we got to stop asking the questions of what just happened and find out not only what just happened, but what do I need to do to correct the problem? And being mad is one thing. You know, I'm one of those that sometimes when I hear certain things have happened, it does make me upset. But I also have to find out what's the next step in correcting what did just happen. So we got a list of priorities of what just happened, but that list has to be corrected. And I think the only person that can correct it is who it happened to. But one person cannot correct it. Everybody has to get on the same page.
Well, you've done a great job of communicating with the people to where they feel your heart, and they're educating them about the priorities.
I have to do a lot of contemplating sometimes and sitting there having that conversation with myself. You know, my mother always told me, she said, you know, it's good to talk to yourself, don't make you crazy. The part that makes you crazy is when you start answering yourself. And I didn't start answering myself. So that's the part that drives me a little bit. But I look at policy as the new, sometimes Jim Crow. And the reason why is because I know that if this is the policy that I have to follow, then policy mandates how we act as a community, how I have access to resources, how my child is going to go to school, how my parents are going to be taken care of with the medical situation that we seem to be in with Medicaid in the state of Louisiana, right. And the difference between the haves and the have-nots, which is very important when you start talking about future. And sometimes as a community, we get caught up in what's happening right now and not worried about the future. Okay. And one of those things that drives me is the fact that we have 67% African-American population in the city of New Orleans. Right. How many young men are in that population? How many of them are in school compared to how many are in prison? How many of them end up in court on traffic violations and things of that sort that end up, I think, costing them a whole lot of money that you got to make almost, you almost have to make a loan just to pay, because you end up on a payment plan just to pay a bill. We have to do a better job with educating ourselves to get us entrepreneurial spirits. If we're not going to get the corporate jobs, okay, cool. Then I don't have to spend my money with you. Oh.
Wow. All right.
I'm just brave enough to say it.
All right. Yes, you are.
And there has to be a concerted effort of folks to understand something. You have the power. You just need to get together and let's stop having the crab in a barrel mentality of once somebody gets up there, just the leader, you know, well, who made you the leader? Da, 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 da. If it's working for you, you know, it's like an old tire. Okay. You know, you got good tread for a minute, and then after a certain period of time, when your time is done, replace the tire. Replace the tires. You can still have the spokes because it takes everybody in the wheel to operate together.
Right.
But the tire needs to be able to take it off and put a new tire up there, because leadership is just that. After I lead the way, if we took the geese or did it like a goose, cause you ever seen a goose and geese fly?
Right.
You know, because they all do it in the V. You see it in the V.
Right.
That one goose gets up there and leads the way, and all the rest of them follow.
All right.
But when he gets tired, he slips back, and the next one that's behind him takes the lead.
Wow.
So leadership, mentoring, and training somebody to take the lead when I get tired is important.
Because your listeners, and definitely I'm one of them, get a chance to really, you're interviewing people, but get a chance to hear your philosophy. So as you've been talking, it's kind of like that philosophy, hard work, do your best, take care of yourself.
Well, the first thing I try to get across to anyone is this ain't about me.
Gotcha.
I have a family. You know, I talk a lot about my daughter, my 13-year-old.
Yes.
And someone asked me the other day, you know, why is it that you care so much about African-American males? I said, well, first of all, I'm one. I still think I got a couple of young years in me. I'm not telling you how old I am, but I still think I have a couple of young years left in me.
Okay.
And then the other part that is very important to me is not that I have a young African-American male that's my son, but I'm engaged to make sure that they are headed down the right track, because at some point in time, I know that my 13-year-old daughter is going to meet one of those young men. I need to make sure that, you know, if she's going to be hanging around him or he's going to be hanging around her, that I don't have to worry about no shenanigans. I don't have to worry about crap happening to him, because more than likely whatever happens to him, it's going to happen to her. We've had too many incidents in our community where our children become victims. You know, good Lord, we got so much against our children. Why put something else in their place? Get involved. Get involved with that child. Get involved with that young man, that young lady, so that they can have the structure that they need. You know, we got a lot of missing males around here these days. Get involved and lead the way.
Lead the way. Let's talk about this system, all right? Because I don't think the system was designed, if we call it that way, the system was designed for you to exist. Black radio station, African-American leader, stand up there 4 hours, 5 days a week.
The system has its pluses and it has its minuses. I've been doing this since I was in the 7th grade. That was only last year. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
Good man, good man, good man.
I've been doing this since I was in the 7th grade, and I love communicating. I love the fact that I had a chance to work with some very powerful people in the business. Had a chance to mentor some people in the business. A lot of people that probably your audience even listens to now on the radio, I had the opportunity to either mentor or work with. But I never say they work for me. I never say that. And the reason why is because they weren't working for me. I think it's my responsibility to say that I had the pleasure of helping mold a person for not a job, but a career. And if that was what I did, you know, so be it. I don't look for a whole bunch of thank yous and I'm the man, da-da-da-da. This wasn't about me. This was being able to take something that I learned that somebody took the responsibility to give and install in me. And I needed to make sure that I gave it back to someone else as I move out of the limelight, maybe, and they move into it. And I think it's important to look at, especially talk radio, because this has never been anything that I chose to do. It was put in front of me and said, handle it. So handling it meant, what are the things that people want to talk about? What are the things that people look forward to learning? And knowing your audience. You know, I think my audience is 35 years of age or older, but I find out surprisingly that a lot of young people will stop you and say, I listened to your program, I learned something today. Which means just as much, if not more, to me, because that meant somebody took the time. When we live in a society of dropping it like it's hot, and some of the most vulgar lyrics that we could possibly think of, to take a moment to turn on and listen to something that's very important that's happening in the community. We as a community lost, with deregulation, community radio stations. We lost that in 1988, 89. If you think back for a minute, I know you're only 17.
You know it.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's right. But if you think back, you know, when we were growing up, the most powerful and probably the most famous person in the community was that announcer.
That's right.
That was on the radio telling you this is where the community meeting is, this is who you need to vote for.
Right. Larry McKinley.
There you go. Right. Groovy Gus,
yes.
Okie Dokie, all those good people. And I get a chance to take on that legacy.
Okay.
And taking on that legacy means doing it right. Because I think I explained to you, I look at the lifespan that I have on the radio as a 15-minute interval.
Okay.
I got 15 minutes to really tell you, this is what we got to do, this is how we're going to do it, and let's think outside the box.
Okay.
Because after that first 15 minutes, my listener is either going to believe me or not.
Right.
And if I do it right, they're going to give me 15 minutes more.
Right.
So I just turned 15 minutes into 30 minutes. And I know that's an analogy, but from a radio standpoint, that's a half an hour. Now I got to work on the next half an hour.
Wow. I got you.
So that's how I really engage my audience to say, you know what, you got a decision to make, you got a choice to make, and these are the things that we need to do. Now I will inject my opinion, and sometimes
your commentary.
Yeah, my commentary makes you think a little bit out of the box, because I try to put that is right, what I think is wrong also, into some type of context. And that context means you make the decision on what we do, but the comparables there may be speaking for you. And if it does, so be it.
All right.
And the comparables can also be sarcasm.
Right.
So we put a lot into commentary. That's why you hear it sometimes.
It's good though, I love it, Now, but this is the thing. The power structure, the city government, the state government, they all listen to your show.
I get in a lot of trouble.
All the time.
And you're going to get me in some more trouble by even saying that, yeah. Yes, and sometimes it takes a minute to sit down and listen to the complaints. I mean, come on, we've had people to call our corporate office in Los Angeles and ask the owner to fire me.
Wow.
But, you know, if he does, okay. But you can't say that you fired me because I didn't tell the truth.
Right.
Because that's my obligation. That's what you hired me for. You hired me to tell the truth. Sometimes I add a little something in there, a little extra dip or two. But they also know. Meaning those entities at the state, at the municipality level, or whatever, that I'm going to either call them or ask them to come do an interview. If they choose not to, then that's on them. But again, I've got an open microphone to make my own evaluation, and if you don't come and explain it, I could be totally wrong.
Okay.
But if you're not coming in to talk to us about it, then guess what? Then you're not doing your audience a favor by having a conversation with them, telling them that I was wrong.
You have an open door, so if they want to come in.
Come on in.
Sit in the hot seat.
Have a sit down. Let's have a cup of coffee and let's have some conversation. That conversation sometimes gets heated.
Right.
I've had some very heated conversations in there where, you know, people will call you up and say, I'm on my way over there, you know, you look like you need some security. But those conversations, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, whether I have a heated conversation with somebody on the air, I mean no harm.
Got it.
Because sometimes we sit down and I had a heated conversation with Sheriff Newell Norman.
Regularly.
Because he came on and we had, I mean, one of those knocked down, drawn out battle conversations where, you know, he had to bring, he brings his security with it, which is one of his deputies. But at the end of the day, what you heard on the air was a heated conversation.
Right.
After that conversation was over with, we shook hands and said, what you doing later? Come on by and da-da-da-da, let's do this. Cool. So we can disagree and be disagreeable.
Okay.
Which I think is a lesson for the state that we live in right now, because I'm really appalled that we have a murder rate that is so high here in this city. So if I disagree with someone does not mean that I got to pick up a gun and shoot them or kill them. And that should be a lesson that is also learned, especially in our community.
Okay. All right. Next shot. When genocidal is probably one of the most horrible situations I think history can ever even talk about, what's going on in New Orleans. United States in the urban areas, but New Orleans is the worst of the worst of the worst.
Right.
You speak regularly about a plan, and tell us a little bit about the solutions that you see. You have people are listening, throughout, like I say, 20 hours a week.
I think our first thing that we've got to do is really be truthful and honest with ourselves, which the plan that we have, or the plans that we are touting in front of our community, honestly have not worked. I can't say that they can't work, because they probably have worked in other places.
Okay.
But New Orleans is such a unique city. We find out that the shootings and the murder that is happening here is not because of drugs. It's relationship. It's because I don't like you. It's a disrespect. Right. It's been something that has been going on generationally for years. But at some point in time, we need someone that's going to address it. Okay. I don't think that our ceasefire, no disrespect to James Carter or anyone with the administration, okay, I don't think that the ceasefire program has done the justice that we're sinking money into it. Yeah. I think that the ceasefire program in itself involves certain elements that are good. Okay. But those are interceptors. I'm intercepting or putting someone to intercept after it has happened. Right. My thought process was we need to be proactive with before it happens. Right. And I had a conversation with Brother Willie Muhammad, mm-hmm, and also some other folks here with the Peacekeepers. Okay. The Peacekeepers organization, I think, is one of the best ideas, because relationship-wise, right, more than likely someone who has a beef, mm-hmm, in the community has told someone else. Okay. If we do a better job with talking to that person, right, or at least having the person that is in the know, mm-hmm, be able to pick up a telephone and say, listen, I need you all to come and talk to so-and-so and so, because it looks like he wants to pick up a gun and kill someone. Right. That person is then taking on the responsibility of being proactive in the community to stop something before we need an interceptor. Right. I shouldn't have to rely on, and no disrespect to Darlene Costanza, who's the head of Crime Stoppers, right, the crime has already happened, so that's an oxymoron to me. Right. We don't need to be talking about Crime Stoppers. They put Crime Stoppers on Peacekeepers, because they're the ones that stopping the crime before it happens. Right. So I would like to see, now this is just me personally, I would love to see there be some proactiveness with putting up more billboards, advertising the Peacekeepers, the beef hotline, because that is up. And these guys are taking on their own responsibility of putting their own money into it, mm-hmm, to put up billboards to say, hey, if you know somebody with a beef, call this number. Got it. And they answer the phone and they go to the location to sit down and talk to them. And they have had success. It's just not PR. So nobody's really talking about it.
Well, isn't that according to the same philosophy, though, whereas one is saying there's nothing we can do with these people but lock them up. Right. The other one is saying is that these people actually can change, that is, whether it's their fault or not, they can change, and the system has a responsibility to help them change. They need to have a 1-800 number or whatever to call.
Our main goal and objective should be using the village mentality. We continuously talk about the village, the village, the village. The village is sick, but the village is trying to repair itself, but nobody's giving the village the time. Here's the village with a great idea on how we can fix other folks in the village to get rid of the cancer. See, cancer spreads. Got it. We need to nick out the cancer and get rid of it altogether, and call it our chemo. Got it. But if folk think that these people are incorrigible, that there's nothing can happen, that it's the old slavery mentality. There's nothing you can do with a slave but, kick them and beat them. If I took a minute to say anything on this program, one of the things I would like to see is everybody get proactive, but get proactive together. We know politics. I can sit down and talk about this administration, the prior administration, and the administration before that, and say they just didn't do anything. Right. But that's not my goal. My goal is to look at this administration and show them and ask them the questions that need to be asked. the number one question I said is, you know, you promised me that my infrastructure was going to be fixed.
Right.
And a lot of people still waiting to see it.
Right.
You told me that we were going to crime and curb murder. Murder has gone up. You told me that the police chief was the best one in the nation that could curb this thing, and I have not seen it yet.
Right.
So the things that you're promising me, I'm just asking the question now. It's been 2 years.
Right.
And as in the famous words of old rapper T.T. Tucker, where we at? Where we at? You know?
Nothing's going on.
No, he didn't use T.T. Tucker. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, you know, when are we going to start asking the questions and saying, you know, I'm evaluated every day on my performance. Exactly. If I don't perform, I'm fired. Now, I don't know about you at your job, but if you don't do what you're supposed to do at your job, somebody's going to pull you in the office and say, sit down here. As a matter of fact, get your belongings, and we're going to have security to escort you out.
That's right. Just like the principals in Jefferson Parish.
Right. And the worst part about the whole deal, you and I paying for it.
Easy. That's right. Tax dollars.
Tax dollars.
That's right.
It's tax dollars.
That's right.
So the environment that has to be set for is I need to be accountable for me and mine, and of course the community that I live in. But those that I elected, put in the office and said, hey, I'm gonna give you a great salary, gonna give you all the perks to go along with it, and by the way, you can hire this one for $100,000, this one for $100,000, and not only just call them deputy mayors, but give them some titles and some other perks to go along with it. But there's always the but there, but that's what we don't do. We don't tell them about the but, and the but should be, but I'm holding you accountable, and we're going to evaluate you every 3 to 6 months. And if you don't perform, I need you to be able to sign on the dotted line saying these are the things that you can expect from me. Because when they elected the position of mayor, there was a group from the Business Council called Forward New Orleans. That made each one of those candidates who were running for the office fill out an evaluation card. That evaluation card, they took back the results and graded them and said, here's a person that's good for this position, here's a person that's not. Graded them and then said, by the way, we're going to come back during your election and make sure that you are doing what you said you would do. Well, how about if we do you like that?
That's right.
Because, see, we set policy, but who told you to set the policy?
Right.
Who are you? Do you know who Forward New Orleans is?
That's right.
The Business Council.
Got it.
Who is responsible for $78 billion in the river region of commerce. $78 billion. Look at the website. Go to the Business Council and look at the website. It tells you every little bitty thing that they're responsible for. We're talking about some pretty big name people.
Right.
From the Saints on down. Who that?
So is it who that? Yeah, right. We who that all day long. But that's the issue. But is it that they're not even listening to us?
We're not saying anything.
Okay.
You know, we're not saying anything. We're not getting to the point of coming together. So I need to take my spiritual beliefs. I need to be able to take my I would even say some of my beliefs where who I associate myself with. Am I an elitist? Or am I from the projects? We need to be able to take that all folks, because see, I can live in this community that's gated, but go right down the street and it is a project. We don't know who's on Section 8. We don't know who's taking their WIC card and going to pick up this. You know, all that's not relevant to my quality of life. My quality of life and your quality of life should be something that you demand. Because if I'm making the type of money that we're paying our leadership right now, I know I'm doing well, and I know my inner circle is doing well. But what about that one that has to go from one job to the other just to make rent? What about that? We have 10,000 blighted parcels, and the mayor said we're going to reduce blight in the city. Well, we can reduce blight in the city if we take a look at our homeless problem. We got one of the highest homeless problems in the country. So let's take a look at that and say, if I got 10,000 blighted properties, let's fix some of these homes up, and let's teach some of the folks that are renters how to be homeowners. Because what are we doing with the properties? Just giving them to nonprofits?
Literally.
That's some of the stuff that's some of the plan. And my plan, again, I listened to a couple of folks that call in and say, you know, we need to have a poverty reduction plan, that poverty reduction plan, has got to be home ownership. It's got to be quality of life when it comes to schools. It's got to be able to have some type of medical treatment for our children, and then the mental aspect, to be able to get some mental health for young folks, because I think a lot of the issues with our young folks that are 15, 16 years old, remember Katrina only happened 7 years ago. So if you're 15, 14 years old, you're at that age category we are seeing right now, 12, 13, 14 years old, that had a problem with seeing their mama stand out in that water 7 years ago, and you couldn't do nothing, and nobody came to rescue your mother because nobody cared. You were 7 years old and you were standing out on the roof because nobody would come and get your mama. And now the mentality is, nobody cared about my family, nobody cared about me, why should I care about you?
Why should I care about you? And we've seen it played out over and over and over again.
Right.
Now, you already called for a march, successful. What's the next step? Boycott, march? I mean, what options, triggers are even available?
I think the first thing we got to do is be able to put together something of a master plan, but don't call it a master plan. We've had a negative, negative, I guess, example of master plan because no one really saw it coming. Our plan has got to be, we put together a community plan. The community plan has got to be being able to take care of itself, because I don't care what nobody says, there's money in the ghetto.
Yes, it is.
There's money in every neighborhood. There's money in the ghetto. And some people will say, well, don't call it the ghetto. Okay, your project.
Whatever it is.
Your hood, whatever it is.
Somebody else is grabbing the money.
And think about it. We've got 360-some thousand people here in this city.
Right.
You know, I don't want to hear anymore that our children don't have books and stuff to go to school. If we got 1,000 people and put them together and said, give $20, that's $20,000. We can't buy $20,000 worth of books.
Come on.
It's that simple. $20 from one person.
Right.
But put thousands of people together, you can get what you need.
Whatever we need.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have to rely on anybody else.
We don't have to step and fetch it for nobody.
Nope. Because my tap shoes are gone.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. So the plan should be, I think, put together monies first.
Right.
And then, you know, money's power and knowledge is power. Those are the two things you got to have. And always remember this. No matter what you do, someone is going to infiltrate you. Understand that. Somebody's going to infiltrate you. Just
like, hey, you got to come on again.
Yeah.
Power works.
Yeah.
Power works. Chris Sylvain with Health Issues. We're facing literally, historically, the greatest issues of our time now. Fight as hard as you can. Be relentless. Don't ever, ever stop. Keep on watching WBOK 6 to 10 in the morning. Thank you.